Sometimes too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek Deep Thoughts Thin Coats with me, Phil the Glacial Geek. As you can see today, I don't have a whole lot again on the table for the thin coats, and there's a reason for that. It's because I'm tired and frustrated. There's 1,000 different projects that I want to do, armies that I want to build out, extra units that I want to make for the sisters, extra units I want to make for my dark angels, extra units I want to make for my gene stealer cult, extra units I want to make for pretty much every single army I have. And then, of course, you want to start all brand new armies as well, because that's just the way it is in our hobby. You just want to keep doing and keep making and don't want to ever stop, because that's what we love. We love having more models. We love having finished models. We love being able to have the options for our army, and that's the way we like to work with it. And I mean, that's how we do. That's how we do it. But sometimes it can be frustrating, because we sit back and we go, is this hobby ever completed? Like, is there ever anything you can do to finish something? And the answer to that almost inevitably is no. You're never finished. You can finish with a particular model, you can finish with a particular unit, but odds are you're never going to be finished with your army. You're never going to be finished with all of the armies that you want to do. You're never going to be finished learning and doing and creating. And part of that is awesome. Part of that is what makes this such a great hobby, is that it's not a one and done thing. That you can do more, that you can create more, that you can always go out and change and try to do everything and anything underneath the sun when it comes to the hobby. But there's an aspect of that it feels like you're kind of like a hamster on a wheel, just constantly spinning and just doing more and more and more. And when you look at it, you just keep seeing more of the same, because you have your color scheme for your army that you're painting, and it always seems like there's just, in my case, more green for my dark angels as they go there, or there's, now there's just more pink for my sisters, or more blue for my gene stealer cult. You look at it and you go, it becomes less and less of you get less of a feeling of accomplishment for each unit that you finish when you just add it to the sea of an army. Those first units that you created felt incredible when you had it at the end, because all of a sudden it's like, wow, I created this, I made something out of this. And then when you finish your first 2,000 point army, or you finish your first 1,000 point army, whatever it is that you're working towards, when you finish that first army that you have fully painted and you put it on the table for the first time and you get to play with it fully painted, it's incredible. It's like this rush that you get, that it's like, wow, I actually accomplished something. I made something beautiful. I made something awesome, and I get to play with it. And you get that feeling of accomplishment. And then you reach that point that now that you have a 2,000 point army, that you're making more units, because maybe you want more of the basic infantry to try to run something different. Or you want some extra transports. You want to try something different. You want to try a different unit in there. It's still lovely to finish that unit, and it's still fun to play it on the table. But you don't have that same kind of feeling. You don't have that same accomplishment feeling that you used to get when you were first building it up, when you were first coming to the point of the tipping point where it's like, I've made my first unit. It's like, I actually have a fully painted unit. There's that feeling of accomplishment. Or now I have a fully painted army that I can field on the table. There's that feeling of accomplishment, that all of a sudden I've created something, I've done something, and I've reached a goal that I've set for myself for this. And that feeling of accomplishment becomes less and less when you're just adding to armies. So, I mean, I've got probably 18,000 points worth of painted dark angels, and I love it. And I love looking at the vast array of different options that I have for the army. There are a lot of units that just don't see the table anymore because of the way the game changes, or that were never really seeing the table because they just weren't that good, but they were a cool unit that you wanted to build and paint. And there's nothing wrong with that. And very often, just the act of building and painting those units and putting them onto my shelf, or playing them in one game and then never seeing the table again, is enough of a feeling of accomplishment. We'll go with it. But every once in a while, you crave something. And I think I'm having that issue because I'm coming off of like a major high of having built and painted an entire 2,000 point Sisters army in just a month. That's an incredible, like that feeling of accomplishment I got from that was massive. And it was like a shot in the arm where you're just like, wow, that's so cool. I had no army and now I have a fully painted army that I've taken to a tournament and I've done with. And it was incredible and it was fun and it was super enjoyable. But having come off that, I turn around, I'm like, what's next? What do I hit next? And it's like, I could keep building and painting units for the Sisters to have some more options for battle reports or for different choices for competitive builds or whatever it is I want to try something new. And I definitely will. And I absolutely will. And I know I will because I had a great time building and painting them. It was frustrating at times, but at the end of the day, I've got those. And I love the aesthetic of the army and I want to expand it. And I want to have more of a Sisters army. And I know I will, but the thought of just building more units to add to something doesn't have that same kind of feeling of accomplishment that I got from that. And coming from one major high, it's hard to go back to like a normal level with that. And because of that, then the frustration builds. And once the frustration starts to build, it becomes hard to get momentum to do pretty much anything. At that point, there are lots and lots of really fantastically cool looking models out there. There's other projects that I have on the back burner that I could work on. And part of me wants something that I can feel accomplished with and have a set goal that I'm looking for and be done with it. Not forever. Obviously, you can always expand it. You can do whatever. But I want to have something and feel something that I created, that I did, that followed along with what I love to do, and do it in a way that still leaves me with a feeling of accomplishment. But I don't want it to be so big that it's a 2,000 point army again, because that nearly killed me. And if I tried to embark on doing a 2,000 point army in a way that doesn't kill me, I'd be working on that for a while, for a long time. And I don't quite have it in me right now to embark on a project that's going to be months long. That's what I'm working on, grinding through. I need something to get the mojo back, to get the flow back, so that I can have something, get that accomplishment without the blood, sweat, and tears of trying to do an entire army in a short period of time, but still get that flow back so that I can then turn around and go, okay, well now I'm just going to build and paint this one unit for my Dark Angels. I'm going to paint this one unit for my Death Watch. I'm going to paint this one unit for my Guard, for my Genestealer Cult, whatever it is. Once you get into a swing of building and painting units, you just enjoy the process and you get those units. But like I said, every once in a while you just get this point that you hit where you don't have the drive to do the work, because it is work. As much as it might be enjoyable, it's still work to build and paint and do anything. It's hard to get the momentum built to do the work necessary without knowing that you are going to have that feeling of accomplishment at the end of it. And that, to me, very often hurts my ability to do more than burnout. And maybe it's part of burnout that you don't have that big, that big burst of accomplishment at the end of it. And because of that, you have a hard time continuing to grind. And that's part of burnout, but at the same time, it feels like it's something that's slightly different than burnout. And that's why I kind of have these two things here. This, I know it's a Sisters model. It's Astrid Thurga, Reliquant at Arms. Super cool looking model, awesome looking banner. And I know that it is a Sisters model, and I guess you could think it's like, well, then you're just building the Sisters. Like, what are you thinking? What are you doing there? But the real reason I wanted it is for her little friend next to her. I have been writing and started writing and need to get back to writing. That's another story. A series of short stories about an inquisitorial retinue and a team, an inquisitorial team. And part of me wants to do a project with them and do something with those short stories and the stories that I'm creating. And part of me wants to have models of them. And I've been pushing off the process of building or finding and starting to build and paint that retinue that I have in my mind that I've created in my stories for whatever 1,000 million different reasons that you can always create. It's like, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the what am I doing with this? Like, why am I doing this? What does this accomplish? And I came to the realization that what it accomplishes is itself. It is an accomplishment to build and paint a retinue that's not an addition to any army that I have. It's not really something that would be able to be built into a larger thing. I guess I could always build and paint other things for it, but that retinue, it's 4 models. Eventually I'll get to the stories and you'll see them. Not today, someday. And it's like 4 models, but once I've built and painted them, they would be done. And I would have accomplished something. And I would have had that accomplishment. And because it's 4 models, I wouldn't have to grind through it for 3 weeks and literally lose the feeling in my fingers while doing so. And it wouldn't take 4 months to do so. I mean, I guess I could make it take 4 months to do so, but I wouldn't want to do that. It's a quick project that has an end, and at the end of it, I can feel that feeling of accomplishment at having a done project, having a project that is completed, that's not just an add-on to a bigger project that's never ending, like an army. And I knew I needed to step up and do something like that. So that's why I went out and bought it. It also made me think about this. It's a bust. I got it off of eBay. I decided that I wanted to try something different. She will never be part of any army, because she can't. She's just a bust. Her whole existence is that I just built and painted her, and then she will be, on my shelf to look at and be cool to look at. And I loved the process of building and painting her, because it was an accomplishment. Once I was done with her, I was done with her. There was nothing else to her. There was nothing else it led to. It was the purpose. It was the project. And there was nothing else to it. So I was never left with that aching wanting at the end for a conclusion, because she was the conclusion. Once she was done, she was concluded. And in the process, I learned a lot of things about painting. Painting on larger surfaces, painting on a larger scale helped me envision how other painting processes work on the smaller scale without being so difficult to do on the small scale. So she accomplished the goal of being a project to work on. She accomplished the goal of allowing me to do something that I love to do, which is build and paint models. And she allowed me to learn techniques that I could then translate into my further process that I would normally do for everything else. And at the end of it, she was completed. And I got that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of completion from having finished painting her. And I loved that. And I think it's something that we could all use. That we could all use that palate cleansing accomplishment. And maybe busts aren't your thing. Maybe you don't want to go up in scale. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't have a short story that you're working on, that you have an inquisitorial retinue that you want to work on. But maybe you play 40K. And maybe you saw some new AOS models that are coming out that look super cool. Maybe you just want a guy riding a shark sitting on your shelf. Maybe you want a bigger model. Maybe you want a giant that you can have on your shelf that you can look at. Maybe you just need something different. Maybe you just need some guys with some bows and arrows instead of laser guns and bolters. Maybe you just need a palette cleansing, that you need to build and paint something because you like to do building and painting. Presumably, if you're in the hobby, that's what you want to do. But you don't want to just keep grinding through the armies that you already have. Now, don't get me wrong, what I'm talking about is not going to help you if you are knee deep in the process of building and painting an army for a goal. So you have a tournament coming up, you have an end goal that you want to create things for. This, what I'm talking about, isn't going to help you because you have a process that you need to do, and that's a whole nother story. And let me tell you, sometimes it's hard. And I understand it's hard. I mean, I've been there. You saw me there. You saw me there. And it was tough. And it's tough to grind through those. But what I'm talking about now is that ennui that sets in when you have accomplished something, when you've built and painted something. So once you finish that goal that you created, you get that feeling of accomplishment, and it's a great feeling. And then you go and you're like, now what? What do I do now? It's hard to just slip back into just the process of grinding through model after model after model. So, and then putting it into the sea of other models that you already have. So sometimes a palette cleanser, like a completely random model, maybe a bust. Maybe you just get like a 75 millimeter scale. Like Maniac has those ones that he's got on Kickstarter. Those look like fantastic models. And they would be great palette cleansers because once they're done, they're done. And then you can accomplish something. Maybe you're someone who doesn't like to just do for doing's sake and wants to have a reason for why you paint. And I get that. I mean, most of the time, that's where I sit. There's a reason that she's the only bust I've done. This was like in the depths of 2020, lockdowns and stuff like that I did that. I needed something like that. And once I got back into it, once I started playing, I mean, most of what I've painted at this point since then has been for the games that I've got going forward. And I'm starting to realize that now that I'm making that I'm doing a video about this, that maybe I can't keep doing that. Maybe I need to have more palette cleanses like the bust, like this retinue, that allow me to refresh myself. But if you want a goal to set out that you can play with the models that you build and paint, maybe gaming is what you need, then maybe what you do is you try some other games. If you're into fantasy, then Underworlds is a great way to get some palette cleanser. You pick up a warband, and that's it. They're done. There's no expanding your warbands in Underworlds. And you paint, you build, you paint them, they look great, you get to play with them, and then you can move on to another warband. That's a completely different aesthetic because it's a different type of army. And that's fun, having those small forces that you can build and paint and be done with. You get that feeling of accomplishment, you get that feeling of conclusion, you get to be done with it and be happy with the project that you did. If you're into the future stuff, Kill Team is a great example of that. You can use all of the models that you use all of the armies that you've already had and play with those ones if you're just trying to learn the game. But now you can also go out and just build and paint a kill team. You can do it with a box or two of models and be done. That's it. You don't have to expand them. You don't need the other options. You can just play with those. And you can enjoy the process of building and painting something completely different. Maybe you love painting Space Marines, but you just can't envision yourself painting another one of the chapter that you're doing right now. Because you're tired of the color scheme, you're tired of what it is, and you want to do something different. Now you can just get one box of Space Marines and paint them in a different color scheme. I've seen people that do like one of each model like for different chapters, and that's fun. That looks cool, it looks rad, and putting them up on your shelf would look awesome. But some people, like I said, if you're looking for it to be a productive purpose, paint them up for Kill Team. Because now you get to play the game, and they're not going to be different than the rest of their squad. They're not going to be different than the rest of your force that you have on the table. Because all you need is that one squad to play the game with. So, what I'm trying to say is that maybe the thing that's keeping you from hitting the table is not that you are losing interest in the hobby. It's not that you are losing interest in what you're doing. It's not that you no longer like to build and paint. It's not that you no longer want to be a part of all of it. Maybe the reason that you are having a hard time hitting the painting table is that you're looking for something more. You're looking for a conclusion. You're looking for an accomplishment that is finite, that doesn't depend upon previous build-up and doesn't foretell of build up in the future. Maybe you just need a break from painting the color scheme that you've been doing for your army. And small projects, like an imaginary inquisitor retinue, like a bust, like a one-off model, like a small warband for underworlds, like a kill team. Something like that is a project that takes a relatively short amount of time to do. And you can do a lot with it. And make them standout models if you really want to process, if you want to try new things, if you want to do new things. Give yourself the ability to go out and go hard in the paint without fear of having to go hard in the paint for an entire army. Because that kill team is only ever going to be around that kill team. So you're not going to have a bunch of line troops that are more half-assed, taken away from the whole general aesthetic. You can try out new techniques and not be afraid of ruining what you have going in your army already, without fear of what it's going to do for the entirety of your force. It gives you the freedom to try something new. It gives you the freedom to do something new. It gives you the freedom to learn and enjoy the hobby that we are doing without all of the baggage and burden that comes along with being part of a grander project. So give it a shot. It's what I'm going to be doing. I think I need to. I need it for myself. I need to get back at it. I don't think I've painted a model since the Sisters, which is a lot. You know, that's a lot of time for me to not have painted. I think I came to that realization that something needed to give. And I think that's why I picked this up, because I needed to start something. Although maybe I have a bust that might do. I don't know. I'll figure something. But let me know what you guys want to do. Tell me what your project is going to be. Maybe you don't need this. Maybe you're just happy grinding away at the same models over and over again. And if that's true, then congratulations to you. That's incredible. That's not something to be upset about. That's not something to be bothered by. That's awesome. Because at the end of the day, this hobby needs to bring you joy. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. If you don't like doing it, then there's no point to do it. But I want to make sure that I don't confuse lack of joy of the hobby with frustration of what it is that I'm doing in the hobby. And at the end of the day, I'm going to try everything I can to keep it going. And I know it is. I know I love what I'm doing. I know I love building and painting the models. I know I love being in this hobby. It's just a matter of getting yourself to a place that you feel happy with. So let me know what you guys are doing. Let me know your thoughts. What do you do to try to mix things up, to keep things different? Is it just maybe you try building and painting a character model versus an entire squad? You know, something to keep things different, keep things shaken up. Whatever it is, let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, why not hit subscribe and ring that bell, like all the YouTubers tell you to, because it does help. I thank you all for all that you've done to help support me in keeping going with this, and let me know what you guys think about it down below. Alright, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I've been Phil, the Glacial Geek as always. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.